Hey everyone, welcome back to Staying Connected. This is Katie, your host, and today I have Jeremias with me, and he's going to tell us about his story with VEDS and his kids. VEDS stands for Vascular Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder that I also have. So, welcome.
Thank you, Katie, for having me. This is it's a great opportunity to come out here and present our story, my story personally, and appreciate you doing.
I'm excited to hear your story because I haven't heard yours yet, and I've met you a few times now over the last year, which has been awesome. I feel like I go to these things and then I get to meet everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, we're family at this point, and I'm really happy to know you and all the other VEDS people. It's amazing.
Me too.
It's so great.
It is like family.
It really is.
It is. So how are you diagnosed with VEDS?
So our story is probably a little bit different. So we was diagnosed through our now 9-year-old Miles. Essentially, ever since he was born, he would my wife and I would be changing his diapers, and he used to have just random bruises in his legs and just weird places, and hips and things like that, and we just automatically assumed, or we just knew that something was wrong or something was off. And so we went through the whole many years of going through doctors and whatnot, and just to try to figure out what was wrong with him. I think at some point we got he might have some blood clotting disorder or some blood disorder, and it was literally just through finding the right, literally just constantly trying to find what was wrong with him. Until we went through a handful of doctors, and then finally it was literally my wife was Googling one day, easy bruising, translucent skin, and vascular Ehlers-Danlos popped up. And so we were, we're like, wow, this is really strange. Our kid, this is really rare. Our son can't have this condition. And so we were lucky enough that we were in Austin, and we had some great doctors in the area, and we found a geneticist, and we went to the geneticist, and we were really adamant about, trying to figure out if he had this condition or not. And she was like, I don't think he has that, and whatever. So we're like, let's get him genetically tested. So we were able to get him genetically tested, and the longest 3 months ever for that panel to come back, and it came back that, it's vascular Ehlers-Danlos. And so immediately, growing up in my life, I had just a lot of really strange, random things that have happened to me and stuff. And so I got tested, and then our other two boys got tested, and it came back that I had vascular Ehlers-Danlos, and our other 6-year-old has it, and our 10-year-old lucked out. So,
wow,
long story. Sorry.
No, that's amazing though. I always find that's similar to, I talked to Carla in the UK, and she found out after her kid was diagnosed too. Yeah. So it's so interesting. How did that feel when the genetic test for him came back?
Oh man. I think I'd say a little bit of a sigh of relief, essentially, just because we waited 3 months for that results to come back, and now we have an answer. Now we can kind of move forward a little bit and try to educate ourselves and really try to understand what this meant. The 3 months waiting was definitely it was a little bit stressful up until that point. But
what was it like during that time?
Oh gosh. I think I've Googled many times, luckily we have the internet nowadays, we have all this information readily available. And, it's just, it was very, very little stressful, just kind of thinking and wondering what the possibilities, were.
Did you have any doctors, monitoring you during that time?
No, I just, I just had a primary care physician and an eye doctor because I've got really bad eye problems. We could probably dig into that at some point. Just primary care. Yeah. Primary care doctor.
So when you came back diagnosed, how did that feel for you?
I think it was more like, okay, maybe there's some answers now to, some random things that happened to me as I was a kid growing up, for example, just playing in gym class or something like that. We used to play volleyball, and I'd hit the volleyball, and my forearms would just immediately sharp pain, swelling, and things like that. And it was just is that normal? I have no idea. But now that I think about it, it was rupturing all kinds of vessels in my arms from just playing volleyball. And it's it's gosh.
It's so interesting when all of it starts to make sense.
Yeah. So I think it was just it was totally now it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
know?
So then you guys have 3 kids, right? So you have one that's not effective.
Yeah, so he won the genetics lottery. But I'd say that, but we essentially won the genetics lottery, like the joke, because our 10-year-old, who doesn't have VEDS, has celiacs, and he's on the spectrum. He's like Asperger's.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we've got our hands full.
Well, I have 9 of your kids, and they're amazing.
They're crazy kids. They're very smart and very resilient kids. You know, they love those guys to death, man.
So you mentioned the playing volleyball and the big bruising and the swelling.
Mm-hmm.
What other things did that explain for you?
So I remember another thing as a kid. There was this one time, or I guess I can't remember if it was like 11 or 12. I was going to a doctor, and she started to see I guess my spine was starting to become a little bit misaligned, and so I was basically being monitored for scoliosis at this time. It wasn't enough to I guess they say, I think if it's under 10 degrees and they just watch or something like that, they don't really do anything about it. But just something like that, it's I just constantly just wondering, is there other kids or other, that are having these same issues? So that was one case, or one of the times that something weird happened. And there was another time where all of a sudden, I did a doctor's appointment, and then they wanted to do an x-ray or follow up because they thought they saw something weird, in my heart, I don't know at the time, but they said maybe a double aortic arch or something maybe, which I have no idea what the heck that was at the time, but I think we ended up finding out that wasn't the case later on. But that was just an experience. I think I was 10 or 11 at the time, and just having to go through x-rays and things like that, and then I couldn't drink that barium swallow stuff. That stuff was just so horrible.
That stuff is gross.
Disgusting. It's like drinking chalk. Liquid chalk, and so I ended up having to do, that was my first, I think, MRI that I had to do because I couldn't drink that. So, but
were you having stomach problems, or is it barium swallow?
I just could not drink it. I was literally on the table there, and I was trying to swallow this stuff, and it just kept coming back up.
It is so gross.
It's horrible.
I had to have one of those when I was a kid for GI issues. And I remember the cool thing about it is they made me excited to get through that because they said I could watch all of it go through my body on the screen. And I think they were, trying to make me amused because I'm a kid, so they've got me, turned towards the little screen.
Here, kid, drink this stuff that is just horrible.
Nasty. It's so bad.
Oh, my goodness.
So, Miles and Henry, right?
Yeah.
They have VEDS.
Yes, that's
So what has it been like raising them?
Oh, man. It's a bit of a challenge. I mean, I'd say that, being a parent just for the, general population is very difficult, but having VEDS and trying to keep up with them, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great kids, but I mean, they're kids at the end of the day. They're going to do stupid things, and and you just hope that they don't get really hurt. Yeah, it's a challenge. We've had some issues happen in the past with Miles, and more recently we. I think it was a couple years ago, Henry had a scan and had his full annual scan done, and it came back that they saw something on his brain. And so we had a follow-up, and they thought that it could be a possible aneurysm in his brain. And so, it's wow. We saw this one neurologist or this neurosurgeon that really scared the crap out of us. We went to his office, and he was just telling us, he was basically talking about clipping this, opening his skull up and clipping the aneurysm or that he saw, and we were just my wife and I were just we were just freaked out at the appointment,
Yeah.
And we ended up following up with, we just knew that there was something wrong about that, but we followed up with our other doctor, and they were yeah, that probably shouldn't have, been so very aggressive about that, and so we ended up finding it. We ended up seeing another neurosurgeon in Houston, and he was an amazing neurosurgeon. And he said that from the initial meeting, he was just I think that there's something there, but he's I can, him coming into the room and physically telling you, I can fix it if it is an aneurysm. It's kind of a scary thing, I think he was 4 years old at the time. So jump into now where we're at now. That was a couple years ago, I think, and we saw him, I think maybe a year ago, I think, and he said he didn't see anything there, but not 100% sure.
Yeah.
So having a 6-year-old with possible brain aneurysm is a very scary thing.
That's got to be terrifying.
Yeah.
Have they had any other complications so far?
Yeah. So actually, Miles, just this past week, he, we were riding around at the park on our bikes, just trying to be active, and because we don't want to sit around and just do nothing.
Yeah.
He was just riding ahead of me, and he just he fell off his bike and ended up just breaking his wrist. And I can't remember the exact name of the bone, but it's a very vital one. There's some blood supply that runs through there, and it's very crucial that heals up properly. Otherwise, he can have some major issues with that, or the bone can die. Essentially,
yeah.
That's what the doctor told us. So is that, and then I want to say 2 years ago, he was at school and he got injured on the playground, and his leg ended up having like a 24 centimeter hematoma in his leg, and
oh my gosh.
Yeah, he couldn't walk for, I want to say maybe like 6 weeks. So he was like in a wheelchair, and it was.
Can you describe what a hematoma is for people that don't know?
So absolutely. So hematoma essentially is just like I'd say like it's internal bleeding. It's like a pool of blood that just kind of stays in one place, and you have to monitor them really carefully because they can turn into what's called a compartment syndrome, and that is not a good thing.
That like blocks off the nerves and the blood supply to certain areas because the hematomas are really hard. Because when I think of like pooling blood, I think of like people with POTS where they like pool down to their legs. But I have one on my butt right now, and it's a very hard lump.
Oh my gosh! Oh man,
it's not great.
No, I'm sure. Oh, jeez.
And so that was like a year ago, you said?
Yeah, that was it was last year. I think it was a year or two ago. Yeah, something like that. But it was a tough time. He was in the hospital for. Honestly, a total of 5 days or something.
Aww.
Yeah, and we had to go back at one point just because we thought he might have been getting worse. His leg was starting to hurt a lot more and stuff. So, with VEDS, you gotta be on the. You always have to be on the edge of things and be ready to go with things like that. But,
yeah. How did you guys handle the school?
Oh, So I'm really lucky to have an amazing wife who is essentially our advocate, and honestly, I would have never got diagnosed with this condition if it wasn't for her, obviously, not let alone having the kids, So we're very fortunate that my wife can spend a lot of time up at the school, and she's really heavily invested in the PTO and stuff like that, and she's literally the kids, rock. I mean, she's been a huge advocate at school, talking to the teachers about VEDS. And we have to go through this every year, it seems like. We have to go and just re-inform them, hey, this is his condition, and, if something happens, we call us immediately, because it could be a life-threatening event, that. And she created like this paper document. Essentially, it's like a health alert, which she hands out to all the teachers. And so a lot of the teachers know who we are because we're up there all the time, and we spend a lot of time, probably more than a lot of people, but we do it for our kids, because ultimately it could save their lives, if something happens.
Do they know they have VEDS?
The kids? Yeah, absolutely. Miles at this point is very well aware of his condition. Fortunately, having the VEDS, there's a lot of things that you can't do. No contact sports, no weightlifting, things like that. Isometric exercises. So he's, at school, he has like a modified list of things that he has to do or can't, things that he can't do, and things that he can be replaced to do those things that he can't do.
Yeah.
He knows he has it, and it's tough. I think I feel like he's missing out on things. Like he would love to play baseball or ride a bike without getting hurt. So Henry, 6-year-old, he knows he has VEDS, but I don't think he really completely understands it completely just yet. But I think, they're smart enough that they're gonna know eventually, and really understand it, I think.
How did you first communicate that to them? Like, how did that...
So they were younger when they got diagnosed. So Miles, I think, was 4 or 5. He's 9 now. So, we try to dumb it down for kids, right? Like, your skin's not strong. Your glue that holds your skin together is not strong enough. So we try to make it, so that they can understand, like on a kid level. They didn't really fully understand the ramifications of something, but of the condition. But
yeah,
we try to dumb it down and just we try to let them still be kids for the most part. But I mean, in the back of our minds, we're always extremely careful about.
Yeah.
What we let them do.
And they've met other kids with VEDS now.
Oh, it's been great. Yeah, I mean, Miles has made a friend, a couple of friends with VEDS now, and ultimately, I really hope that they'll grow up together and they can have someone to lean on and someone to just express their life. I mean, with their challenges, and I mean, this is amazing, honestly, for them to have that support.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot from the parents of kids that is in Houston. I think they got together.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just amazing to see your kids there, and they're talking to other kids with it, and a smile on their faces, and it's kind of a safe space for them.
So does anybody else in your family have it, or were you the first one?
So I mean, essentially at this point, the first one. At this point, we kind of think it might run on my mom's side of the family. We're not really sure though. We really don't know. We've been trying to get our family to get genetically tested and whatnot, but it's kind of been a little unsuccessful in that department. But hopefully we'll be able to figure out at some point.
Yeah. What makes you think it's on your mom's side?
There's a few things that happened. So like my mom's dad, he passed. I want to say like in his 40s. His situation was a little bit different. So he was in surgery. And he was in surgery for a kidney, I believe. The way I understand is that his the tubes that connect his kidney, they were like one of them was detached or something,
okay.
So the kidney was dying or something. So they were in there to remove it, and I think they ruptured either his spleen or pancreas. I can never remember, but they ruptured it in surgery and ended up bleeding out and dying during surgery. Yeah, so that's why we kind of think it might possibly run on that side of the family, just because of that.
Yeah. How's your mom?
So yeah, from what I know, my mom, she says that she has a little bit of a detached tube on her kidney at this point. Mm-hmm. So, but my mom, as far as now, up to now, she's fairly healthy for the most part. She's almost 50, yeah,
right.
Pushing up. So I mean, but at the end of the day, we really don't 100% know.
Yeah.
So, no.
Do you get annual scans?
Oh yeah. I've got a cardiologist that I see down in Houston just to follow up, and I'm getting scans. Those things are brutal, man. Like I think I was like in the last one I just did, the more recent one. I think I was in the tube for about like 5.5 hours or something.
Wow.
Yeah. So this was like an older machine that was in Houston, and this was like really like I think that the guy told me that it was made in like maybe the early 2000s or maybe in the late 90s, and so it was like really one of those MRAs that you can like feel the magnetic force just like pushing down on you. So like I literally describe it like it was like when I got out of that thing, I felt like I went like 12 rounds with like Mike Tyson or something. It was brutal. So the scans, the machines that we have down in Austin at our local ARA clinic or something, I think they're more of the up to date machines, and so those. I think I went in once there, and it was like maybe like 2 trips, I think, and they were split up like 30-minute or 40-minute increments, and so that was like way better.
Yeah, 5.5 hours sounds pretty miserable.
Yeah, it was horrible.
So do you ever get the ultrasounds instead?
So, we do echoes as well, too.
Okay.
Echoes, I think those are yearly. As far as like ultrasound, doing other, I guess, checking for other things, I haven't.
Yeah, I know Dr. Shireen, I'm just going to call her Shireen.
Yep.
She's a proponent of that for follow-up scans unless you see something.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to sit in MRA for a long time, and they're less expensive. And if you're like a smaller person, which a lot of us are, then it's easy to see those arteries.
There's something there.
Yeah.
Yeah, might be something I should probably look into. Yeah.
A lot less miserable. I know I've had an MRA a couple times, but I've had to push for it, because it's after I've had a mini stroke, and I'm like, I've already had 4 CTs in the last year. Like, I don't think I should be having another one right now, because then I'm going to look at a brain tumor. And they're like,
Yes.
okay, but they have to admit me in order to do the MRA because it's
Yeah.
not in the emergency department.
Right. Oh man. It's
But
like
those
double-edged
CTs
sword.
are crazy too because they make you
Yes.
feel like you have to pee.
Yes, when the dye runs through your, oh my goodness, I did have to do a CT once. I had this. I'm doing some yard work, so I'm kind of a dude. You know, I like to do yard work, and that's kind of the last thing that I do that really makes me feel like can still do things. You know, as a guy. So yeah, I did it was last year. I think I just kind of overexerted myself, and I was having like this pain like in my abdomen. It's kind of sudden onset of pain, so you know you got to get to the hospital right away to get checked. So yeah, they did a CT on me at that time because it was like the quickest thing they can do to get in there and check to see if you have something in there. Mm-hmm. Scared the heck out of the doctor because he didn't know what VEDS was. That's kind of another thing, right? Every time you go to the hospital, it's just like you don't know what doctor you're gonna get. You don't know what they're.
Yeah, it's either they're way concerned about it or they're like dismissive.
Yes.
I haven't had one that's just in the middle because they haven't heard of it before, so it's either one extreme or the other.
Yes, that's very true. Fortunately, yeah, this one time, this doctor was very open ears, so he listened to us right away. He got us into the CT really quickly, and I had Rachel there by my side, and she was just pushing. We busted out our med passport, Dr. Byers' passport, and that's come in handy a time or two. So
did they end up finding anything on that?
No, I think actually I might have a small hernia there somewhere, which I don't know if that's related to VEDS, possibly.
I think I read about that somewhere that it was.
Yeah.
And I had never heard of that kind of hernia, and I was going to read the paper, but I haven't. I just read, like, the abstract.
There's some interesting things out there if you Google around.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man, is that related to VEDS? It's kind of possibly. Who knows?
It's like one of the inner hernias that you don't see. It's like inside.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at this point, just get it monitored. I mean, there's not really anything. I'm not going to go in and have surgery to repair it unless it's like something that's, just like killing me or something,
Yeah. So it sounds like you've been pretty fortunate. They haven't had any major events. I
have been, honestly. I mean, as far as like major arterial issues, I haven't had anything major artery issues happen.
That's great.
So, yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 33.
Nice.
No.
Congratulations.
Yep.
It's wonderful. I love it when I hear good stories like that, too.
No.
It's amazing hearing everybody's stories, and sometimes it's really tragic.
Yeah.
Like, just hearing what everybody's been through. So it's really nice.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. No artery issues, but I mean, I do have other complications and things. I've more recently I have a lot of respiratory issues, like lung issues, and I think earlier this year I got like really sick. I think it was after that whole Washington trip, and I was extremely sick, bronchitis, respiratory infection. I think they were monitoring me for pneumonia, but they found pocket there, but I think I ended up having like a collapse, a partial collapse of lungs. So yeah, I've dealt with those and just having asthma and all that stuff.
Did they reinflate it, or if it's partial, will it come back on its own?
Yeah, they essentially just monitor, and they generally can heal on themselves, from what my understanding is.
That's great. I had a friend in high school, and she was in dance, and her lung fully collapsed twice.
Oh man. Yeah, she might have VEDS. You never know.
I mean, actually contacted her recently, and I said, "Hey, have you been checked for Marfan syndrome?" Because she looked like she had Marfan syndrome, and she said she didn't. Yeah. And now I'm like, there might be something else.
Possibly. You never know.
She just had a healthy pregnancy and everything.
That's good. That's good.
Maybe it was just coincidence.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of things that can be interrelated with. I mean, VEDS is really kind of a young thing. I mean, there's not a whole lot of information out there.
Yeah.
Doctors are learning themselves.
How have you felt with all of this stuff in the last year and a half? Because I was talking to Abby about it, and it really feels like it started to take off over the last year and a half.
I mean, it's amazing. We got diagnosed almost 5 years ago, and just kind of being on a desert island at one point, I think, trying to understand more about the condition, and I mean, seeing what's going on in the last year and a half is amazing. I mean, it definitely gives me hope for my kids. Maybe myself. I have no idea. Maybe there's some breakthrough that's going to come through in the next few years that that's going to come up and might really be a good way for us to completely have a better quality of life.
I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
I'm so excited for the meeting tomorrow too.
Yeah.
Like designing a trial.
Absolutely.
And especially after we've heard all of this research that's going on. It's like when you're first diagnosed, you don't see it.
No.
And you just don't hear about it.
No.
And so you don't know what's going on, and you don't think anybody's researching it, and then you find out, like you come here and you're like, oh my gosh, there's
a lot of work going on the background that we don't really know about.
It's like the preliminary to human trials. Like there's a lot of mice data right now, and we just need human trials.
Yep,
and it's
absolutely.
Very exciting.
It's mind-boggling. I mean, these physicians and scientists and researchers that are out there these people are really heroes, honestly, because they're sacrificing their lives to do this research, and it's amazing. It really is. And we have a great team of physicians and doctors and everybody.
We do.
Absolutely.
So, is there anything I missed that you wanted to tell the people?
Yeah. I mean, if there's anybody out there that is just kind of waiting, maybe they think they have VEDS or they're waiting for genetics, and they're stressed out, new parent that might have a kid with this condition, your life's not over. It's not over. There's a lot, there's a lot of living left to do. Take a step back and take some breaths. And once you get your diagnosis, if you have to grieve about it. I think there's a lot of people that take this in a different, a lot of different ways. Reach out to the community. We've got a great community of people. Their family, they love everyone that comes around, and new people to the group. There's just so much out there, so much people that really care about you and are willing to help you to trek through this. So you're not alone out there, and life's gonna you're gonna be good. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine.
I love that. Yeah, I try to preach that message too. Yeah. So if you have trouble finding anybody in the community, you found this podcast, so go ahead and contact me, and I will get you connected with somebody if you haven't found somebody to connect with. So you can contact me on my blog, translucent1.blog. There's a contact me page, and I try to reach out to anybody that I can that doesn't reach out to me. But I also try really hard to respond to those messages as soon as I can. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Jeremias.
Thank you, Katie, very much. Thank you.
And there are episodes coming out on the last Sunday of every month, so stay tuned, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.